Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another scene set in Odessa the Dark Crusade Season 2. Tonight, we set our scene with two veteran Cainites, two very worldly figures who have made their way to Odessa and since established themselves there, and have been summoned to a meeting of the followers of the Road of Bones, the Necronomists. One of which simply has to take a simple carriage ride. The other, a not-so-simple carriage ride. But alas, they have both arrived within one of the most well-defended districts and domains in the entire city. In fact, one might say the most well-defended and one of the most devout. Justinopolis Mount. The domain of the prince himself. But also one that the Cappadocians have been given free permission to use for the relevant projects. And considering that so many on the Road of Bones are Cappadocians, this is where this meeting is held. However, the lone toreador in the matter is expected, and hopefully respected as well.
Well, that'll be a nice change. Please. I'm just kidding.
This is the folly. Cainites do not change. The meeting itself is to take place in a fairly to take place in one of the two libraries within the city. One of which resides within Justinopolis Mount and is actually a part of the structure itself. The other resides within the domain of the Assamites, and as such is really only used by them. Of course, Johanna knows that the truth is slightly different. There is perhaps a third, but that is neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
Your destination itself is situated atop a hill. When I say Justinopolis Mount, it is meant. It literally sits atop a hill. And there are devout and martial figures situated all over this district. It is almost a bit unnerving in a way. Johanna, you've been to the Merchants District. You've seen what a secure, well-defended domain looks like. This one is arguably even more so, but not really due to any sort of strategy or fine implementation of the watch or the military. Just the fact that they seem like it seems to be that just the sheer amount of people that are maintaining this domain, the sheer amount of mortals on patrol right now is significant. There's also a surprising amount of common and noble folk here who enter and exit the basilica on a seemingly constant basis, most likely looking for some sort of holy protection from the plague that has since ravaged this city. But despite your animate shadow, you have no trouble entering Salim, you're able to get here well before Johanna due to the fact that your journey is simply much more simple and much more straightforward. You have to take a nasty trip through Riverside, which is literally falling apart as an area. The district is in just large swaths of that domain is just abandoned. Buildings are literally decaying over time. Neighborhoods wiped out, gone. In many places, they haven't even cleaned up the corpses of the street. In other places, there are just animals are more prolific than humans. The vagrants, the homeless, the desperate, they do not really sit on the ground for any long period of time. What few you see reside on the rooftops. What few city guard are here are busy taking care of the pest problem. The only people who seem to be doing well at all is when you pass through the city centre, there is a shop. The marketplace is still open, but one establishment in particular, the only one that you can actually call a shop, an actual building, not just a stall, is open.
Is there any way to
And
identify
it's doing
those?
quite well for itself. There are also a fair amount of rat catchers around who seem to have no end of business. In fact, you're pretty sure you see a very decorated doggo running around catching a rat.
Huh.
But you're not quite certain.
He just
Those
looks
are perhaps
around.
the only people that are really benefiting from this situation. Everyone else is literally in a state of either panic or depression or dead.
Yeah, he just kind of regards it all with a certain passivity. Though he would like to see if he can recall the shop that's there by memory, if possible.
Yeah, you've been in Riverside before, I believe. It's by far the most well-off looking establishment in the area. Again, it's the only shop in the marketplace. Riverside is not a wealthy area at all. What few buildings that look to be of any degree of standing, quality, maintenance appears to be an exception rather than the rule. When people do come out on the street, it's either to quickly dart from one side of another, to loot, to commit some crime of some sort, to settle an old score in the face of, well, the entire district's end. And this is quite quite well noted to you. You've been seeing this unfold for quite a while. The roads that were already poorly maintained have fallen apart completely. The cobble has just buckled under stress over time, and they were already poorly maintained. Now it's largely just dirt, mud, and other foul substances that litter the area. Some areas are very damp, others have been flooded from heavy rainfall, particularly by the river, as no one has come to repair the buildings. And some buildings are actually, as you cross the river, you see one building is actually slowly sinking into the edge, from the edge of river into the river. It's just slowly, as the water just has since burst its banks, it's just fallen down, and it's just the detritus is slowly over time being swept away with every passing night. But the shop itself, yeah, it's a well-off looking shop. It's see if I can get the name for you. It is called the Keeper's Den.
Okay, you just make sure to make a mental note of that for maybe another time.
There are what appear to be effectively paid hired guards, security there looking after the place. Quite a lot of them. Several, again, rat catchers, which aren't just people with dogs, people literally running around with spades. It's probably the one secure area it would appear to be in the entire district. It's the one area of relative peace. And you'd know it's a place that it's well off because it sells a lot of stuff and like that you wouldn't be able to get outside of Riverside at reasonable prices. They're very, very, very diverse in what they sell. That they've basically been able to make a home for themselves here. Why they haven't expanded outside of Riverside is perhaps a better question.
Well, good fortunes upon them for doing so well during this time of strife for the city.
They largely sell utilitarian products, tools, of numerous different crafts, many different mercantile crafts. Everything from woodworking to smithy to farming to glasswork. Price is fairly cheap, particularly for the fact they sell all these diverse products. But yeah, they're doing well for themselves. They're perhaps the only place in this district doing well. Everything else is... I mean, it looks like it's really only a matter of time. It has stabilized somewhat in the past weeks. Like, efforts to keep the district from actually collapsing into just chaos has been taken. The city guard actually appear to have the urgency to do their jobs now, and it would appear that efforts to contain the pestilence has been stepped up significantly. But yeah, that's what you're witness to. Be able to make your way out soon enough. All the way up to Justinopolis Mount, which is next to the palace.
You know, once he...
I lie. Justinopolis Mount is not the prince's domain. I am a liar.
Oh no! Wait,
That was
really?
the palace. That was bad. Yeah.
Whose domain is
It was the
Justinopolis
palace.
now?
I made a mistake. It's now unclaimed, but the Cappadocians more or less populate it and have effectively claimed it as their own.
Got it. Also,
That
can I
part
find
is
what your
true.
map says? Justinopolis.
You can,
For the
I'm
first
aware.
time.
The person who made this map may have been very tired when they made it. It was not me.
Oh,
I'm referencing someone else, but they made a map that I couldn't, so I give them full credit. You have a both make your way to Justinopolis Mount itself. Basically a massive mosque that has clearly been repurposed from being a basilica. When it was taken by the Seljuks back in the 1100s, it was basically, rather than knocking it down, they simply repurposed it and re-inhabited it as a different faith.
yes.
Though...
Sorry,
Go ahead.
No, go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead.
You got here
No,
first.
you!
Selim got here first.
Oh, well, anyways, I was just gonna say, so that way he doesn't make anybody unsettled and draw, like, much more attention to himself. He is gonna take off, like, his mask and instead don a cowl that kind of, you know, covers up most of his features.
I'm sure a
Just so
man
he
wearing a
doesn't kind of
mask at a
stick
time
out.
of crisis is not suspicious.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it is a rather large mask, and and it's in this kind of a place, But yeah, I mean, okay, fair enough. You got me. He'll keep it on then for now.
You look pale and sickly as a Cappadocian, however, you're not a breach of the silence.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. He's gonna don like a cowl, but yeah, that's fair enough. He'll keep the mask then, if that's okay.
I mean, the mask is suspicious as a cowl. As long as it's not masking your face, you don't come across as too suspicious. In fact, that would be fairly normal. But yeah,
Okay.
the mask would be suspicious. The cowl would be fine.
Yeah. Okay. That's what he was gonna do then.
Johanna, once she's made her weary way across the river, does a very good job of pretending that she's a nun who's a little sickly these days. Not ill, but just tired. Um, her hands are gloved. She takes her carriage as close as she can. And has guards to escort her and the ghoul to remain with the carriage in case she needs it quickly.
Mm-hmm. Would you, as you both reach the mount, you both see each other on approach. Slim, you're about to walk in.
I'm sorry. Say that one more
Johanna,
time.
you're just arriving. You see Johanna as she's approaching on her carriage, now out of her box.
Someone will wait for her.
Oh, out of her box. Yes. She looks perfectly normal and not like she was in a box. So she climbs out of the carriage and gives him a nod and a smile that is only a moment late, not from any kind of dismissal, but just because she looks tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he'll simply she'll see that he's adopted a cow that's kind of like wrapped around his face, um, just out of probably for protection of him, and then keeping the silence, and he also is not only clutching his cane, but what looks to be a rather thick tome of some sort, book, in his other hand, and gives her a small bow and kind of gives her the silent right of way with his hand as she can go first.
Thank you. You look well.
Mm, I am well with all
I'm so
this going
pleased.
on, and I'm so excited about tonight.
I've made very good use of your bucket. Not,
Have you?
unfortunately, as good a use as I shall eventually, but for now
Oh,
it
what'd
serves
you
me
do?
very well as a flower pot.
Ah, you had said something of the sort. Glad it's being used one way or another.
Indeed.
What kind of flower did you put inside?
Oh, whatever I can find in this season.
Hmm. Well, let's hope you find a more dramatic use for it later on.
Indeed.
Shall we?
Yes. She
Sorry, I
will.
don't like to tarry too long with opportunities such as this.
I just assume she's been moving quietly as they
Oh, okay.
talk, because she does that very well. She has the nuns sweep down, and presumably
Oh,
they've been given instructions for how to get where they're going.
mm-hmm. I'm assuming so.
Yeah, you The entrance to the mount is open. You are met by a servant who appears to be a ghoul, and he will offer to take the right honourable gentleman and most gracious lady to their destination. As you enter, though, would you like to roll me perception awareness to both of you?
Yes.
Of course.
Remembering my penalties, because I am good at the game. 2 successes.
Remember your wound penalties.
I did. Are you proud of me? I'm proud of me enough for both
I
of us.
am. Well, that is an unfortunate roll.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your rating on the Road of Bones, by the way?
Whose?
Is your rating on the Road of Bones 8 or above? Because that would -1 from this difficulty.
My road rating is 6.
Okay, yeah, there's no bonus or negative impact then. So yeah, unfortunately, Salim, you don't really notice anything. You're just following the call down, business as usual. What's interesting to you is what will be at its end.
Okay.
But Johanna, you sense a sudden drop in temperature, as if it's quite cold outside, but it feels as if it's even colder inside. And you get the strong sense of it's that feeling when it's like someone's like following you around. You feel like you're being followed.
Has it gotten darker at all?
No,
Okay.
your shadow is kind of flickering around as normal, but it's not too big a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not acting out like it. It's not acting out on the same scale that it usually does, or that it
As
sometimes
she
does.
proceeds, she just kind of clasps her hands in front of her, so that the dark fabric of her gloves and the dark fabric of her robes just kind of blend, and she's just like shadow except for the white cowl.
Yeah, Selim just continues to walk as if he doesn't notice anything. Just really determined, and has that slow, steady limp with that single tap of the cane with each pace.
Yeah, perhaps the most you notice is Johanna looking a bit sketch. But
I mean,
yeah,
you'll
are
have
you
to roll
doing
to notice
anything
that
like?
because she's not looking actively sketch if she can help it.
Oh yeah, what's she doing like in particular? Sorry.
She's just keeping her composure.
Okay, that's fine.
Mhm.
Let's see. Yeah, Johanna is completely not sketch.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, yeah.
what happens is you go through Justinopolis. You do enter the library section, but you don't actually enter the main library, but you don't actually stop there. What actually happens is that you end up going through a lot of storage room where there's a lot of books that aren't out on shelves. And then you end up going through another door, which is actually just a direct circling stairway down. It's very dark.
Johanna glances at Salim and smiles and says, "It's so cold."
Is it? I haven't noticed. Though, would you say Would you say that is not something you would think is normal here?
I have not been here before, but I have found the company of Cappadocians to often be rather chilly.
Perhaps that's why I don't notice it myself. Perhaps I'm
She's
not
smiling.
Well, are you going to be okay?
Quite, thank you.
I just thought I should ask. And you could tell that it like whether she said no wouldn't really mess with him, you know. It would be empty. Like he really wouldn't care either way.
She looks absolutely used to that and gives him a nod and a smile and will precede him down the stairs as though she's used to being used as the canary.
But yeah, needless to say, since this is a spiral staircase, yeah, it probably takes him a minute, considering his limp and stuff, and how long it takes to, you know, a normal person to go down the stairs. It takes him that much longer just because of his leg and his flaw. So yeah, he seems like he's definitely taking his time.
So Johanna normally just glides down stairways like a princess in a Disney movie because she's a fucking toreador and it's a really nice way to get your robes to flutter. But she will be considerate, and instead she, with great dignity, as though she were moving ritually through the paces of some kind of sacred dance, she just sticks to his pace. Like it's just normal that we take one step at a time and glide down gracefully. Totes fine.
Oh, you were so kind, such a dear.
Does he say that?
Mm-hmm.
She just glances at him. Not usually.
Well, I'm glad that you decided to act different for my sake.
It isn't kindness. I just prefer dignity wherever possible. In my companions as well as myself. It's very difficult to keep out of the mud when it's being flung.
Well, let us continue this nice stairway down to the abyss.
Oh!
Oh.
He says that she's going to roll a thing.
Oh, okay. I just assumed it was dark,
what did
so.
you say? Sorry.
He said, let's just continue this nice stairway down to the abyss.
Oops.
Yep.
She has one success.
Wait, what
on a
was that
minute
trigger?
sub.
Oh no. To die on a stairway. Oh my gosh, that would suck.
I mean, she wasn't gonna frenzy. She wasn't gonna frenzy. She just has one success to not look like she cares.
Oh,
Abysses
okay.
aren't at all triggery for Johanna. Not even a little bit.
Little PTSD.
Nobody's staked her to a chair and told her she's gonna be a great abyss mystic.
Oh. Traumatic. Gotcha. He
Fortunately,
just
she's
adopts a
in
small smile.
company, and they're like, I didn't notice you had an emotion.
Yeah. He just adopts a small smile, gives her a short look though, and then continues concentrating, going down these stairs.
What's at the bottom? Did we lose Christopher?
No, I'm still here. Sorry.
Oh, good.
You make your way to the bottom of the stairway. After being horribly reminded of of what once occurred at the bottom of another stairway. And
No, Christopher, not appropriate.
uh, you're right. You got a success on a roll. It's not appropriate. But you do make your way to the bottom. It's a fairly open stairway. It's dark, but it's fairly large and wide. And there are torches lighting the way. You get to the bottom. There are these kind of large doors. Slightly about 1.5 times your height, and many people wide. And Ghoul just opens them for you. And what you are displayed to is a second library underneath the first. It's fairly large. Ballroom ceiling. The room is kind of goes on for a while. It's like one large circle, and the bookshelves basically form these. Like there's the one in the center, which there are two shelves which form a little circle, and then another rim and another rim and another rim, almost like a tree log.
No, this is impressive.
And it kind of part of the circle is just chunked away. Like a third of the room is just one large laboratory. Many with surgical and torturous implements, others with more mystical carvings. You can see several black, almost like obsidian-looking kind of orbs, like carved rock. You see stored blood and bone. Most importantly, in the center of the room, which is how far this laboratory digs in, literally kind of like taking up a slice of the pie of the room. In the center of this room is the grand prize of it all, and you see a small glass bottle, a glowing light inside, and you can hear it thud against the glass, and thud and thud at different angles every time, like it's trying to get out. But it has no physical impact on the glass. Salim, can you roll me your Cappadocian law, please? Actually, you can roll your Cappadocian law difficulty 5. Johanna, you may roll your intelligence occult at difficulty 7.
Okay. This isn't something I've seen before, is it?
You have seen this before. You recognize this as the thing that sealed away Lady Roth. Remember when Padre told you to get his case, and he opened up the case and it revealed this bottle?
Oh, it was that bottle. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I had 1 success.
Okay, good. Okay, well, I'll start off with the 1 success. That's your intelligence.
I have a wound penalty. I have a wound penalty.
Oh, yeah.
But yes.
I am disappointed.
Are you? Are you? Or is this what you would expect out of Johanna?
You're a necronomist. It's like the one stat that makes sense for them. You are aware that this is a thing that, obviously, from what you've seen, is meant to lock away a person's spirit for a degree of time, but you're not sure how it works. You have no idea how it works or what kind of power this is. You're just aware that this is literally like a genie bottle. It's basically a genie's bottle. Salim, you on the other hand are well aware of what this is, because this is a necromantic ritual. You are aware that this object is called a Tempest Prison. It's a fairly rare ritual. It's used more often by the Giovanni than the Cappadocians. It is used for sealing away large numbers of wraiths. Normally, what you simply do is you put a object, a container made of glass, and you put it into the ground, or put it into the kind of center of a place of location of wraith activity. The ground then shudders, and the wraiths are sucked into the container. It can hold a very large numbers of wraiths, and wraiths are unable to escape once they are imprisoned within. They are completely powerless. It's often used by the Giovanni as a means of convenience and service. They do have a reputation of, from time to time, of basically when a clan or a canine has a ghost problem, they simply give them the container, tell them to put it where the ghost is, and then simply give it back to them when they're done. It should be noted this is also a ritual that the Giovanni created, not the Cappadocians. This is their innovation.
He'll stop and regard it with a moment of introspection as he kind of recalls the information to himself from his small stint of study. Not directly pertaining to race, but having probably come across it and whatnot. And he just simply smiles, having actually just seeing it for the first time, and just for it glowing and it pulsing in the way it does, and kind of just takes up the room for him. And then he kind of like reminds himself, what he's here for. But he still just can't seem to take his eye away from it. Almost like it's just that much of a prize. It's just that interesting to him. And then he'll look at Johanna.
She has stopped politely beside him. Sorry.
Have you been here before?
I have not.
Do you know what that is? No.
She nods and eyeballs the glass and just nods.
Can you tell me what it is?
It holds souls, she says, which is, kind of true. She glances at it and she kind of squints a little bit, and then she glances sideways at Selim to see if he is going to buy that answer.
It's more than a flower pot for the soul. Ohana. Gosh. How could you say something like that when it's clearly much more than the effort you put into it?
Her brows raise. Please enlighten me. I have been obviously crass in my description.
You have the basics of it right. It is a receptacle for souls. More accurately, it's named specifically a Tempest Prison. It's a fairly obscure ritual one that I'm surprised is actually shown up here, though, given who I believe what we might be talking to. It might not be all that much of a surprise. I just wonder whose souls might be in there, though. She didn't have souls. Reading the side chat. Oh man. Sorry, give me a moment.
Ah, got it. Okay.
Yeah, the Giovanni exist, but they're still considered a bloodline, albeit an official part of Clan Cappadocian.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not considered like a renegade bloodline or anything. But if you meet a Giovanni, they'll be considered a part of Clan Cappadocian.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But anyways, it's a ritual that comes from a bloodline, specifically the Giovanni. They are a part of us, considered to be one of us. It's a very interesting and very powerful ritual. It's very impressive. In fact, like I said, this is the first time I've ever seen something like this outside of a book or a small paragraph.
Hmm. I've seen it before.
You have. He arches a brow.
She's gonna glance sideways and give him kind of a grin that is all imp. And she's like, inside of a book. When the Lady of Roth went to her new home.
Inside of a book? I thought you said she was bound to a book.
That's what I mean.
No, a different spirit is bound to the book.
Oh, is it?
Liar!
Oh, the one that she summoned was bound to the book?
Hmm.
Well, that's interesting. I'm not sure Johanna knows that.
The Lady of Roth's soul was literally ripped out and inserted into the Tempest prison.
So this is the exact same glass, and that's probably who's bonking around in there?
Yep.
Oh, let us go and pay our respects.
Johanna just goes up to it, flicks the glass. Hey, buddy, how you doing? Anyway, sorry.
I mean, Johanna will will literally give him a look. Like, are we done looking at it? And when if he nods or indicates in any way that he's ready to move forward, she will move forward to admire the light bonking around in there.
Can you roll perception awareness?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, you do see, as you kind of walk around and approach it, two individuals take notice of you. Should be these two.
She still has her hands clasped demurely in her... Oh my god! Well, clasped demurely in her... against herself so that she's not touching anything, she's just looking. But that's -3. That's 3 botches on perception awareness roll, which is what she gets for being smug.
You perceive yourself being sucked into the vortex of the Tempest prison. As you approach it, literally, it's almost like, from a modern perspective, like being stretched out as if you're in a black hole. That's effectively what you feel like is happening. is your matter. You feel like your matter is twisting, and you feel like you're being sucked into the Tempest prison itself, along with many other wailing and screaming figures.
Oh shit.
Salim, you can roll perception awareness as well.
Awareness, you said?
Awareness, yeah.
Okay, excuse me. One success.
That's fine. Didn't you roll 7 dice before?
Yeah, I messed up earlier.
Okay, that's fine. One success. You feel like this area is very crowded, and the closer you get to it, the more crowded it gets. Johanna, you kind of pull back from the shock and end up kind of kicking the table leg that the
Oh no. No, Christopher, no.
Oh no! No!
Can I roll this fighting not do that?
is
Can I
about
roll-
to 3 degrees.
Oh my gosh!
You got 6, you're fine. The table wobbles for a moment, but the jar doesn't actually fall off. But it does
my
pick up
God.
the attention of the 2 Cappadocians in the room, one of which is your mentor, who was just kind of like, I expected this, I don't even know why I'm surprised. And the other one looks a little bit taken aback. He looks very shocked. And Slim, you recognize this as Hesperos, and he walks up to you. Walks up to both of you and says to Johanna, "Oh, do be careful. That specimen is priceless."
Salem's eyes are
Like
wide.
corrects the table and
Salem's eyes are wide. Probably the widest he's ever had them. Ever in his life.
Are you getting real proud right now, sir?
Who, me?
Mhm.
From what? Pedagogue or
From Eye of the Storm.
call? Or I don't know. Would I get willpower from
Johanna's
Anyways.
basically a time bomb, let's be real.
Oh gosh.
Um,
What's Hesperos though?
he was quite distressed and corrects the table's orientation and puts the jar back in the center. But yeah, you feel like there are a lot of presences around you. At least you, Salim. Johanna, you feel like you're kind of about to get sucked into that thing whenever you look at it.
So Johanna, who's extremely excited to go become reacquainted with her enemy in a bottle, has gone like deathly still. Like she's using every dot of everything that she has to stand just very, very still, unless she has to reach out and grab that thing before it falls, because she would really not like for that thing to fall.
You're a Cainite. Being statuesque is actually fairly easy.
So she's doing it very well. And when Hesperos scolds her, she nods her head politely and deferentially and says, "My apologies."
The mentee of Padre, I take it. I understand you wish to make a splash, but I would not consider this the appropriate motion to do so.
It might serve us better to stand over here.
It's quite alright. Is just be careful how you move. If that jar smashes, we're going to have to go looking for her all over again. I believe more perceptive of you both have been noticing a rather large crowd gathering Would you like to both read the soul, please? It may enlighten your situation.
It's Auspex, right?
Auspex 2.
Does
On
the
your Auspex 1, it'll lower the difficulty by your Auspex dots.
Ooh, yeah, let's do that. It doesn't cost blood, does it?
Yes, so the
Perception,
more
empathy,
Auspex you
right?
have. Perception, empathy, yeah. If you have Auspex 1 on, it lowers the difficulty of a roll by your Auspex dots.
Okay, so
If the emotion specialty counts, it's 6, otherwise 4.
I don't think I counted for disciplines. So we'll just say it's 4.
I have 3 dots, and I used Auspex 1, so, I mean, what's the difficulty of the roll? 7? Originally?
How much Auspex do you have? It's
I have
8
3 dots.
originally.
Oh, so diff 5.
Minus your
so,
Auspex, which make it diff 5.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Okay, you see a vast number of extremely weak, intermittent auras that seem to flicker in and out of being. Even paler than a kindred's, well, a canite's. They're almost outright transparent. But what's interesting is that these auras are melding, being pulled into this jar. It's almost like a little miniature hurricane. And this process repeats. You can see spirits. Well, you recognize these auras as the auras of spirits and wraiths, ghosts, and you can see a fair number of them effectively being directed by Padre into this bottle, this Tempest prison. It's quite clear that he's engaging in some sort of experimentation. But the auras are literally fusing together. Or rather, the one inside the prison is consuming the other.
Padre means daddy.
I think with both of your successes, both of you get this.
Okay. And Father Jose is still nowhere to be seen?
No, he can be seen. He's the one that you can tell is, like, by the way, gesturing. By the way, he's on the other side of the room, but he's gesturing, and you can see he seems to be directing the ghosts that you're viewing via Auspex. And, but you can't really see the ghosts proper, you can only see their auras. But it's the direction his auras are moving in. He's actually speaking in a language you don't understand. It's like completely foreign and alien to you, it doesn't sound human.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Han's very interested in that.
Yeah, so is Selim. He even takes a moment to kind of pay attention to the father, watching like what he's doing specifically, the gestures in particular, and almost trying to also read his lips if possible, as if he could, even though it's a bunch of gibberish to him and he doesn't understand it, but he's intent. The intent is there. The thirst is there to want to know what that is.
The intent seems to be commanding. You actually see a great deal. You see no less than 5 wraith ghost-like auras swirling around him. Well, not swirling around him, but they seem to float around him. In a way, it's almost like fairy lights, just kind of bobbing around him, just kind of guarding him. But the other spirits that he seems to be commanding, it seems very clear by his gestures. The auras move in a very stiff fashion. It should be noted there's about a dozen of them. So far, about 4 or 5 have been fused. Once the 6th seems to be is effectively swirled into this vortex and is consumed in a small flash from the Lady Roth.
Interesting.
The experimentation seems to end.
I picked the best plan.
And he seems to have a servant write notes for him in the process. Yes, this servant is quite literally undead and seems to be a puppet, like a literal skeletal puppet.
How close is Hesperos to us right now?
Hesperos is basically looking at the jar. He's basically next to you.
Okay. I will not say anything.
You're kind of partially surrounded by bookshelves and lab equipment that take up like the left side of where you're standing. The bookshelves kind of on the right side, kind of forming like a small semi-ish circle and kind of, again, kind of make up other rims like a tree. You can see other souls in other Tempest prisons, but they're in far greater numbers than Lady Roth. You can see maybe dozens, maybe even upwards of 100. These big glass containers. In fact, Salim, you actually you spot a devil stick.
That's the one that's made out of like the human femur?
Yeah. Made out of a human's leg bone, I think.
Yeah.
You spot one of those. It's kind of placed on a rest.
Man, he almost wants to kind of touch it. Though, he kind of opens his hand on the cane, and you can see his fingers kind of splay out as the hand kind of the pommel just rests, or the hand rests on the pommel at the top, almost as if he wants to drop the cane and actually reach out for that, but he kind of remembers, like, no, it's a bad idea. Usually, especially when you don't know, the person that's providing you respite here and a chance to observe all this stuff. So, yeah, he kind of takes a moment to get himself together and continue to watch politely, like the signs.
Sorry, where did he go while I was trolling Johanna in chat?
He
I heard most of it.
He gathered himself and made sure he stood in place.
He did not like the science, Christopher.
Yeah.
That's a real shame.
Though he does make a small jest to Hesperos that about he could have showed up a few minutes later if it meant that we were interrupting. He can see us at a jest, though he could tell that Selim would have won in any other way, though. Like he appreciates the moment that he got to see the father do his work.
Yes, his research has always yielded interesting results. Yes, at this point, actually, Padre kind of comes on over. Just kind of continues. It is fascinating. I've never really seen a phenomena like this before. But I can't imagine how or why it would occur. I suppose I should give you the rundown.
Johann has taken a moment,
Padre is...
stepping back so that she will not kick the table, to offer a curtsy to both Hesperos and to Padre Jose.
Thank you. Padre will just kind of nod and give a very polite but very stiff and formal bow. Good evening.
Good evening to you too, Father Jose. I am, if I may, Selim Matarasi, of obviously clan competition. I come from Turkey here. I hate to say, but on the day of the plague, but come to settle here thanks to the prince, and I want to say thank you for inviting me here so we may discuss some very important matters in your hospitality.
Yes, my apologies for not finishing my experimentation before the meeting. It was not my intention. However, I hope the experience proved informative.
It's not a problem. And indeed, though, if I may pose a question.
Of course.
What is the purpose of the fusing?
That is what we are trying to figure out. It appears that whenever a wraith of any particular power approaches this so-called Lady Roth, or as she is also known as the Lady of Roth,
Johanna nods.
she seems to be able to consume the matter of their souls in a process that is almost exactly identical to that of the latter half of the Abelry. Which suggests a key link between a kind of as a replication, that they're able to replicate our powers, or that we may be able to do the same to them. Of course, the process is not the same as the Abelry. The Abelry has traditionally required heart's blood. But that is also a matter of study that is poorly understood, and many suggest that it only requires the soul of a victim to succeed. If such a thing is true, then it would be possible for perhaps a Khainite to dabble as a human, or a ghost, or a lupine, as long as they are able to reach out to their soul. And absorb it as if it were a physical object.
to recover any of her knives?
I have several. They appear to be made up of a foreign matter that is native to the Shadowlands.
Hmm.
She touches a hand to her heart briefly. Sorry, I'll be right back in just a sec.
So an artifact from the Shadowlands, you said. Interesting.
Colloquially, they are referred to as the matter itself, the material, the metal is referred to as soul steel. Although many lives close to the Skinlands do not seem to grasp the concept, it seems to be something that is wider spread deeper within the underworld, but reaching such areas proves dangerous, problematic, difficult. There are many obstacles that have thwarted many of my more ambitious expeditions there.
And he looks. Hesperos has mentioned much of your dealings here, or made mention of your dealings here with the Lady of Roth, and said that you were working on a project, and I'm assuming what you had alluded to earlier is what you are trying to figure out, yes?
This very unique figure remains my main project for the time being. If we're able to crack the mysteries of this strange process that the Lady of Roth seems to undergo to empower herself or to sustain herself, it is possible we may have a deeper understanding of not only our own condition, but of how to he's also remembered how to improve upon it. We could literally take fragments of different souls and add them to ourselves. It is already possible to grasp a mortal soul. It is how I was able to imprison this specimen within this prison. But absorbing it, using it as a purpose to increase one's blood potency, it is still a mystery to us if it is even possible. But the theories of tablery and our current line of investigation regarding this figure connect, then it is very possible that we may be able to exist independently of such a society altogether. We do not have to be limited under the restriction of generation. If it takes us a few ghostly souls, a thin-blooded pup could become as dangerous as an elder within a week. But these are still hypotheses, concepts. All we know right now is that it appears possible to absorb souls of others without having to take the hot blood in return. but using a similar process, as if you are able to skip a stage. That is the evidence we have right now. A more efficient form of diablerie. A frightening concept to many, but one that could yield world-shaking results if we find out what the truth is.
That would certainly make us the most prominent clan of the Canaanites for sure.
Salim and Johanna, you know that messing around with the concept of diablerie is a very dicey topic. It is something of a... It is considered the worst crime of Canaanites to commit, because it literally involves the devouring the soul. A Canaanite soul. Even Canaanites on inhuman roads tend to avoid it. It is considered universally a bad thing. Only the sinners seem to not pay any
Embrace it.
heed,
Oh.
and that's because it's based in their principles that they cannot be limited in any way. So, but it is very... It wouldn't, because you haven't committed diablerie and no one has committed diablerie to your knowledge, this project you think would be politically very unpopular if it were to become public. But as Padre Jose states, could be insanely, could be massive, like literally world-changing if they were to succeed in their plans of basically creating a more efficient form of what you, if they're able to replicate what the Lady of Roth is doing, and if they're able to figure out the link between what she is doing and the concept of diablerie.
Johanna is staying silent and listening with a look of small concern, but also impressed. She doesn't stop watching Padre Jose.
So basically the Cappadocian's response to the Tremere was slightly scared, but well done.
Yeah. Salem just kind of draws just like a very small smile and a single nod at that. Would simply be probably the magnum opus of your research, Father. Though I am most impressed, many, especially if word got around, might find that rather troubling. Needless to say, it would put a rather large target upon us if things got out.
True, there are many who would prefer to dwell in ignorance rather than discover the truth of their existence. But
Indeed,
do not
sure.
thank me yet. I have only discovered the how, not the why. Or rather, I've only discovered the what, neither the how nor the why. If we can't discover the how, that is the important part. If we can reliably create these results and then transfer them, reenact them to see if it is possible for us to do the same, it is entirely likely that we cannot possibly perform this act. After all, we are fundamentally different beings. The only similarity is that the Wraith is simply a soul exposed. And if it is on the basis of that alone, then it is likely that we could do the same. Everything has a soul. And a Khan's soul can be empowered, and it can impose itself on the world in different ways. It is merely a matter of figuring out the means to do so. I have confidence that if nothing else, we will be able to figure out the full mechanics of dabblery, even if our grander ambitions are unsuccessful. This alone could give us further insight in how to manipulate it, prevent it, multiply its strength, although that is a dicey proposition even for myself.
One that should be pursued nonetheless.
If we can find a way to stop her process, to find a way to shield a soul from being consumed, such a ritual would be of great import to paranoid elders. They could quite literally shield themselves from final death. And Hesper speaks up. This is what we have come to discuss. That is the findings of the good Father Perez. Quite an intriguing set of finds, if I do say so. However, I have been researching a different subject matter, as I believe you as well have, Mr. Matrasi. The plague.
Indeed. And it is quite the prospect, well, excuse me, quite the undertaking, I should say. Do you want to share what you have found first, or should I? And he looks at Hesperos.
By all means, go first. It's possible that we have ended up overlapping in our research.
And basically he takes his book and puts it like on I guess an empty corner of the table, and opens it up to basically a diagram of the rat that he dissected, and basically points a few things out, and then on the next page is basically what looks to be like a rough diagram of the city, and mapped out coordinates or zones of infection, with notes, basically stating, how these were all made to hit at the same time. But yes, as far as the plague goes, it's a manufactured one that is one within the making for a long time. In fact, this individual, a very very caring and particular individual, one who strives for perfection, a very cold being, done this. I can say for a fact. It is likely the work of an elder, one long, long, well beyond any of us here, most likely. In fact, it is definitely a ritual of necromantic nature. One that I have exhausted all of my knowledge and references, and I quite frankly cannot come up with to even name or determine how this is anything other but a ritual.
Yes, I've made some inroads on the matter myself as well. I've come to a similar conclusion, although the deliberation behind what you've discovered perhaps is telling. My own research indicates a ritual that was able to be used on mass amounts of creatures, yet for a very specific mutation. With the locations that you've marked here, it would suggest, and he begins like pointing to the different little areas of contamination, like the little clusters. It would appear, as you said, this is all very deliberated, part of strategy. Well, I don't believe it was caused by one individual, but perhaps many. Either a great deal of necromancers involved in one ritual to infect many at once, or the more
Really?
likely scenario of one individual infecting great amounts of creatures en masse, but one would need a lot of resources to do this, or a great power to aid them. You do not possess the capacity to control large masses of animals. This is an elder power of other clans. Either that, or you'd need a small organization of animal handlers. Easier to create, easier to control. Perhaps the more likely scenario, but considering the fact that this city is beginning to enter a state of instability and likely war, it is not completely out of the question that there are elder powers involved in this. I have a thorough understanding of the mechanics of this ritual, at least from a basic point of view. I can point to each major step in the process of this ritual. I managed to deconstruct part of it, but it is perhaps not necessarily beyond my understanding, but beyond my power to fully reverse.
That's quite the same feeling that I've received too, and I'm quite adept at rituals and necromancy.
It appears the magics involved in the creation of this plague are not only manufactured, but are involve a great deal of blood potency, which lends credence to the claim that it is in fact an elder behind this. Not many individuals working in concert.
Indeed. I have come to the same thing, and I have even considered maybe going to maybe one of our older kind here in the city, such as the Primogen, though, and maybe even the prince himself.
The Primogen by Jean and the prince are both present within this building currently, although I should say they are not followers of our road. Perhaps if we are to discuss this with them, we should do so on the upper levels of this mount. They are aware of this laboratory, but not necessarily of all its contents.
We'll take you up on your advisement. It would probably behoove us to go to them anyways.
It is not a proper setting to address our elders within.
Right.
To share research notes and results. Experimentation, yes, but not for figures of great political standing.
I would certainly not forestall your questions, but it may help your efforts to know that perhaps the person responsible for this is not only old, but leading some sort of group of like-minded individuals. On the night of that the plague was released, several of us had visions of a man speaking to some sort of gathering. And Christopher, Johanna has peeled out she's gotten the gist of what was said. She didn't have enough successes, but she got it from Garnet.
Yeah.
And there may be at least 2 elders. I could not tell you the clan of either, but I have a guess as to one.
I did note something. During my research, I was hit with a flash of blackness. A speech about stratagems and tactics. I did not make anything of it at the time other than that it was noteworthy. Such viewings do not come without purpose. They never do.
No, and the Malkavians as a clan have had a second viewing.
What do you mean?
Yes, I heard of this. The spree of madness within Elysium.
It was apparently some speech. The creature claimed to intend to exist long beyond all of them, to watch them fall, and the world burn to ash, and then from the darkness watch it be reborn. Apparently the Malkavians can speak to one another by virtue of their blood.
As can we. And you, I believe.
Out of character, do I know that? That's neat.
Auspex 4 gives you telepathy.
Oh, I see. That's not what you meant. Sorry, 1 second. I'll be right back. Don't say anything. I'll be right back. 2 seconds.
I think we should just end the scene here. I don't think there's anything more worthwhile saying. I think you're right. I think Emma's right. We should just stop.
Wait, were you trying to say things? You sassy bitches.
What? I didn't say anything. Don't know what you're talking about.
She says she shakes her head and there's another cricket. Anyway, she shakes her head and makes an apologetic gesture with 2 fingers. The lowliest of Malkavian neonates, I'm told, up to the eldest of the blood, can speak with one another.
Hmm.
It did not sound as much like the use of auspex. It sounded like some separate power. It was only described to me briefly. And maybe the reason that the Malkavians specifically were targeted for such a vision. Laziness.
The Markhaven's always been possessed of a curious insight that we've never been able to replicate. Something that goes beyond the normal boundaries of Auspex, something connected to their unique condition, their curse, molded as both a blessing and yet a more distinct disadvantage than perhaps even the Nosferatu's particular frailty. They seem to be able to push past the boundaries of many traditional mental powers. Well, I'm also aware they also are possessed of insight, not just limited to Auspex, but of a unique, for lack of a better term, discipline. I believe it is referred to as dementation. As someone of Canite Law 3, anyone here of Canite Law 3?
Nope.
Okay, that name's foreign to you.
Oh, okay.
Never heard of such a reference before.
Would we recognize the Latin
is the-
roots if we speak Latin?
Yeah.
Okay.
You'd know it from, you'd know like the words like academic, like linguistic roots.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It is a, for lack of a better term, it's the power to use madness as a tool. The cost is that ultimately one must be mad in order to utilize madness. It's possible that there is some crossover between that and the capacity to use Auspex, but I am no expert on a Malkavian condition, and I don't think they are either. It makes them difficult to study. There are very few among their clan who take to scholarly pursuits, and even fewer that seem to accrue anything from it. That it is a closely guarded power, similar to how we guard our own secrets as a clan. He gestures towards two other Cappadocians in the room, and you obviously know he's referencing the flagrant necromancy.
What flagrant necromancy?
You're not doing it
Normally
enough.
you wouldn't know much about blood magic, Johanna, but you've been around a Cappadocian long enough to know quite a bit about necromancy, despite being only on Canite Law 2. You have a fair understanding of it. You couldn't possibly begin to learn it, like not enough has been revealed to you, and you can't really learn blood magic for osmosis, but you have an understanding of what it does, what it's capable of. Some manner of process, like some of the basic principles involved. It's kind of a novice's understanding, which is more than most K-Knights would have, to be honest.
Mm. I like toast,
Basically,
but I
you've
couldn't
seen
begin to
shit
tell you
in
how to
the
make a
shit.
toaster.
Yeah, you know what a toaster does. You don't know how to put one together.
Exactly. I'm sorry for calling your blood-powered toaster.
That's okay.
It's fine. They don't take offense. They don't know what a toaster is.
My point was that
But yeah,
it is certainly a group effort and not simply the work of one irritating lunatic.
interesting. It appears you are then gifted of greater insight than myself. If I may ask, however, before we shuffle off to the Prince to report our most disturbing findings, no doubt he'll be very interested in how the plague was a manufactured attempt at war. But what has been your particular topic of study lately?
Is he asking Johanna?
Yeah. Like with Matarasi and Hesperos, like studying the plague. Jose, like your mentor, basically studying Lady of Roth. He's kind of like asking, what's your, basically, what have you been doing to kind of keep up on the road of bones? Like, what have you been doing to contribute to our necromantic community?
She, when he says you have more insight than I, her brows shoot straight up and she just gives a tiny shake of her head so that he knows what she's talking about when she makes a second apologetic gesture and says, by no means. I find myself fascinated by all of this that you've spoken. And I am loath, for reasons of debts owed, to no more than passing. She kind of makes a gesture with her hand to indicate what they've spoken of. I will not inquire as to details. For those reasons, my studies have been curtailed somewhat to mundane matters. I have been exploring the work of others, for the most part, on a wide range of subjects.
Oh, do go on. I'm quite interested. Of course, while we have been heavily involved in less natural activity, mundane contributions are just as important and appreciated. They form
Indeed,
the basis for larger projects. They are fundamental.
I've begun copying books. It is a, she just kind of gestures with both hands. Whatever tomes seem to hold relevant information. Not all of which I understand yet, but having written them out, I suppose I should be able to find it again when my knowledge is great enough to comprehend what is in it. Accumulating tomes.
So you must have a substantial library then. Most of, not much of what I've seen.
I'm afraid I do
Hey,
not
you
have a
wanna run a
substantial
subterfuge,
library.
baby?
Hmm?
You want to roll
I
that
will.
subterfuge?
I will. I mean, she only has one dot, so when she says not a substantial library, she's not lying. But she is, keeping the truth to herself because it is a super secret library.
Yeah, to be fair,
uh,
private personal library is more substantial than like anything really.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, it's only one dot.
Manip sub is. I haven't forgotten my wound penalties one time. 10 points for me. She has 3 fat successes of what library?
do I need to roll for that?
Yeah.
In addition, my haven was attacked, and I lost a number of. I lost a great deal of my own studies. In particular, though, my studies have focused on beasts, demons, supernatural creatures.
Shame.
Those that prey upon Canaanites. She's going to glance at Padre Jose because he knows what and why, but she's not really interested in sharing with the class. Because Padre Jose was there when that went.
Which particular one? It's kind of sad that I have to ask that.
He was there when she summoned the Red Man to ask about what ate all the Canaanites.
Oh yeah, then he basically just went nope.
I'm gonna peony Padre Jose when she says that because she cares.
You don't need to. He has basically no subterfuge.
Okay.
As I'm sure you're aware, this is not the most sociable gentleman.
So what does his expression say?
Raised eyebrow. Kind of like interested in how much you're gonna say.
That's all she says. And again,
So
makes
you know what
a.
we found out, by the way. Quick question: Does Padre Jose know what you went through? Did you ever tell him? I'm not sure if you did.
Good question.
I don't think you told him.
Don't think she did.
Well, that makes his response fairly straightforward.
Okay.
What did you find out?
She nods slowly and tucks her hands into her robes, kind of just presses them back into the fabric of her robes. They just disappear again. And kind of looks off into the distance, not really looking at anyone. I was shown another vision, perhaps of an experience of the end of the last Canaanite population of Odessa. The wind thick with ash, and a creature in an alley with deep red eyes, huge and famished, covered in shifting bone, wreathed in blackness, cloaked in a fog of shadow. fangs were enormous. Its mouth was terrible. The walls were splashed with vitae. I've searched bestiaries for any of signs of such things. Any mention of any such thing. I worried when the Malkavians told me that this creature who spoke to them recently was a creature of writhing shadow. But it did not seem so solid.
Hmm. Interesting. I was around. I lived within this city a century ago when this was a hot topic. There were few answers then as well.
Really?
The city used to have more Canaanites within it when they all disappeared. It was then that Ulrich became the Baron after the Nosferatu who claimed Jerusalem after the First Crusade. He would later go on, after a few decades, to become the prince for a few years. Officially, not under the thumb of the prince of an entire empire. Independent domain. Then hand over to our now Prince Benedictus. Maybe wise talking to them on the issue, they may know more.
I should very much like to. Are you suggesting Prince Ulrich survived? Or he arrived shortly after?
He arrived years after.
She nods.
It was seen as a place of opportunity for the young, and back then we were all very young. And OC, Johanna, quite literally before your time. This would have been a few years before you'd been embraced.
She nods. She's also going to glance at Selim and give him a small smile because she paid quite a bit for that information and it's kind of a you're welcome sort of.
Hesperos has common sense. He knows what a correct hunch looks like when he sees it.
Looks like a correct what?
What a correct hunch looks like when he sees it.
Oh.
He's literally the most common sense man.
He's
It's
also got a
his
sense of
superior
humor.
name. He is the common sense man. The mundane counterpart of Superman, but far more effective. Then you got Vampire Man, who's just a dick. And he's actually was just Kane the whole time. But moving swiftly along. Padre just says, do make sure not to owe more debts than you can handle. I see that you are already on a periphery.
She is going to roll minor subterfuge. Everything is fine. I'm not mad.
He'll just say, Canaanites love to add caveats to everything. It is why there is so little to gain from often conversing with them.
Indeed.
For his 5 dice, he does have at least 4 dots of perception. A lot of empathy. He doesn't see anything.
There is a price to pay for peace, I'm afraid.
He doesn't really answer that question, although his gaze is somewhat skeptical.
she peers at him pretty intently because he knows, like, he is well aware of the price that, like, he knows that it's a sham, and that
Oh yeah.
he is indeed, like, part of the lie. So she kind of studies him for a minute, and then just nods.
He just seems to be giving you a very blunt warning. You can just tell that from his face. Like, he doesn't really mean anything by it other than try to stop owing more boons to more people, because otherwise it's going to be impossible. It's basically what he's trying to tell you. There's no dishonesty in his words. Or no attempt to deceive or mislead or provoke. He's just very to the point. Well then, with everything said and done, perhaps we should approach the prince with our findings.
Indeed.
No.
If we are fortunate, he is in his office right now, signing away the life of that Nosferatu.
Which Nosferatu?
From the rumors you probably think they got.
Oh no! Oh, buddy.
Oh,
buddy. Johanna doesn't say anything.
You're not even sure if Jose is trying to joke or not. It's just like, maybe if we're fortunate, he's just gonna kill this Nosferatu. Or maybe he's joking and it's like one of those rare cases where he's pulling one over you.
I'm afraid I have not yet met this Nosferatu. Though I have not.
That means you can't.
Hmm?
That means you can't owe it a boon.
I'm gonna roll for Johanna to not make a face.
Devlin is just gonna put his hand lightly on her back and just close his eyes and shake his head. And
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, he kind of smiles at that and Hesperos laughs.
Huh. Fine.
Roll. And I. Hesperos sees through your bullshit.
Her face is a 2 successes mask of oh, Cappleburn.
wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Johanna,
He
when
seems
she's
to, he
finished,
seems to have a bit of Schadenfreude there.
Johanna will give his Schadenfreude a moment to permeate the room around them. He has been her mentor for this long because probably she lets him have these moments and lets him indulge without complaint. And when it seems that it has had its appropriate time, she curtsies gracefully and says, "Shall we?"
Mm. Yes, I am ready. Mm.
Excellent, then. I'll have the meeting arranged. And, yeah. We'll see to it that the, prince is made aware of what the F is going on in his city. Would you like to meet him directly, or would you like to end the scene there?
Oh, Vaughn. I'm sorry. I mean, Johanna would love to meet him, but are they going to talk about anything in front of her? She will understand if they don't.
I mean, I think pretty much everyone accepts that anything that you hear is going to go directly to La Sombra at this point, so they've kind of given up trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have all specs, there's no point.
Cappadocians only.
Yes, that's fair.
So yeah, you'll head up to the prince's office, the same one that you've been to, Salim. And you see the man. This will take place an hour later. This is basically the message has been sent. The prince has arranged for basically a very quick meeting, actually, perhaps because it does involve his clanmates. So there is more camaraderie there. And it is involving the immediate state of the city. You are seen in. There are several guards, about a dozen, all completely suited in armor. They say nothing. You are simply allowed through. Once again, the temperature in the air is very low. And when you enter the prince's office, you do actually note a chill breeze. Like kind of gust of wind that kind of buffets you a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And will allow you to do most of the talking as the NPCs have done enough. They will explain their bullshit in their own time. And the prince will simply kind of gesture for you to take a seat and will simply say, take a seat.
Thank you, my prince. I thought it would be imperative to come and inform you of what's going on in your domain and give you what I have found and what your compatriots have found regarding specifically matters about the plague. I've come to find that this is a matter of manufactured, I almost want to say war, if that's a safe thing to say, upon your domain. Somebody took a lot of time and planning to make a concerted effort to strike, and he gives a list of the cluster domains of infection in a strategized attack. to basically destabilize and cause the most amount of damage through these plague rats that are basically, from what I've gathered, along with Hesperos here, through a manner of a necromantic ritual that I believe we can kind of break down, but we just there's a missing part that we just can't put together. Perhaps we just don't have the experience, but someone such as yourself who has the longevity and the knowledge should maybe be able to decipher and distinguish.
What's that? What's that you're rolling there?
The prince is fine. Nothing is wrong. He's not pissed off.
Oh shit, I forgot. He could hurt me still. Oh no. Anyways, yeah.
Dude, he's like the guy who can kill you without anyone else's permission.
Yeah. I just came to be a messenger. Anyways.
Oh yeah.
What do I
hey,
see?
look. Look, Father. Oh look, Padre Jose and Hesperos are gone. Wow, where did they go?
Did they just disappear?
Nah. This is simply a fact of, like, when you tell someone that their domain is basically having war declared upon them, it doesn't really matter who's saying it.
I mean, so's Cappadocian. I think they would probably just blatantly say it. I mean, yeah, he figures he could probably be hurt, but I mean, it is what it is. He's not scared. He rolled the bones.
So, the prince will simply kind of steep his fingers. You see. Then, if you and Hesperos could inform me of the research, provide me with details, perhaps a solution, a cure to this foul act of malevolence can be resolved. Sorry, can be created, halted, and purified utterly.
At least from the research that I've undertaken, and that I plan to further try to practice, I believe I should be able to come up with a way to purify or correct the individual on a singular basis. But as far as handling the issue in its entirety, that is what I'm still working on from a pragmatic approach. Needless to say, just trying to cure one on an individual basis will not obviously help things, and continues to make the person vulnerable to being infected again. However, like I said, I'm still working on a way to, or a more permanent solution.
You thinks on your words?
Although I have come up with a maybe a plan in the interim that would maybe kill a good portion of these plague rats on the surface, maybe for a time, but it will not. It may be granted some reprieve for a short time, perhaps, but again, it will not be a long term with as much time and effort and just the sheer number of these plague rats. That is pretty much what the main problem is here, is how to eliminate them in a very efficient and resourceful manner.
We will need a strategy to delay the progress of this new enemy while a solution to our problem is created. As such, I will ensure that you are given the full resources of our clan in order to ensure its success. For the time being, this will be your priority project. One that will supersede all others. Am I making myself clear?
Very clear, my prince.
Good. I will ensure that you have the tools at your disposal as soon as possible. I'll go for God be with you, and thank you for the information. It is no doubt proven enlightening.
Thank you, my prince. And he'll simply stand and leave. Hurt so bad.
Oh, hon. Han is watching all this, kind of watching the prince and his anger and thoughtfully, and she makes a small gesture with a hand, to suggest she might have something to add, but is not particularly bold in announcing it as she's watching him.
He turns to you.
My prince, no doubt you know your enemies in this region far better than I. But I have seen the face of at least one of them in the shadows of another.
It is an unknown figure, one, however, very clearly of a particular clan.
Which do you mean, my prince?
Their face is marred as that of Clan Nosferatu.
Whoa, which face is this? Because neither of the, has Johanna seen a face that was... She saw the face in the sky, and he didn't look like he was Nosferatu scarred, did he? The player's dumber than the
definitely
character.
Nosferatu.
Oh, was he? Oh, so it was. Look at them fingers. Boo.
Mm.
Okay.
That is the face you saw. They look kind of similar.
No.
Haha.
Yes! It was all a cunning ruse.
Mm. And yet, the studies that have led to whatever she gestures towards Selim, your clanmates have discovered not generally the purview of that clan, nor are the mad visions that have accompanied these attacks.
Visions come and go. They are spontaneous, random, yet always with a purpose.
She nods.
Is that all you wish to say?
Yes, my
Is
clan.
that all you wish to say? Very well. Then you may take your leave.
She drops a deep, deep curtsy and follows after Selim.
Sorry, he would pay his
After you
respects before
leave,
he leave. I apologize. He did not bow, but he would make sure he did. Sorry. Sorry.
when it comes to the prince, I assume people don't mess around unless they
Yeah.
explicitly state as such. Um, when you leave, you notice that the armored figures before they had their weapons sheathed, or kind of they're not holding them, but now they're holding them. They haven't moved from
Yeah.
their spot.
Sorry, say that last bit again.
They haven't moved from their spot, but they are now holding their weapons. They've been released from their sheaths.
How are they holding them? Is it in a threatening manner or like just holding it?
They're all stood opposite one another. So in a way, they have basically their swords held up as almost as if they're about to duel each other.
Mm-hmm.
Literally as if, like, take one extra step forward and they'd be striking each other.
Could it be because of the mention of possible war being declared on the city through these actions? At least can Selim surmise.
It's speculation, really. There's not
Yeah.
really any way to tell.
Oh, okay.
That's what Johanna's going to say, just quietly to Selim as they move forward. Looks like we are officially at war, then.
The kind of the figures like turn to watch you leave, but do nothing else.
I suppose so. Nothing declares that quicker than the brandishing of steel.
Johanna moves fearlessly through the ranks, offering a nod of as she passes.
Selim still moves pretty coolly, just because he has to move slow. He doesn't seem particularly too much of in a rush to leave, just by the nature of the way he has to walk, but He definitely has a lot on his mind. Especially when it comes to what exactly the prince means by resources at his disposal.
He's like, I can see all the presents under the tree, but they are wrapped.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I'm gonna get a toaster for Christmas.
He kind of has like his fingers up to like his chin, tapping them, and he's just like, yeah. Daddy gave me his credit card.
She glances sideways. Well done, by the way.
Hmm.
Your work has
Well,
been already valuable.
so it has. But we'll see. Looking forward to what exactly else I can extract, though, as far as knowledge. Things I could put to use later.
Mm. Naturally.
Your father, Jose, is a very interesting man. More interesting than I've thought.
She smiles, and her smile is distinctly both fond and impish. He is that. He's a patient man. And wise.
And he has a very, very cold and very swift wit about him.
He does that.
He is a man after my own heart.
So I have noticed. Fortunately, I also enjoy his company.
Yes, I'll have to see how I can make sure I'm in more in his too. Well, once my project is done, perhaps.
If I can
Does
help in
seem.
any way, please let me know.
Oh, yeah, I'll make sure to keep that in mind. After all, I am with you and Aldrich, correct? As far as this little friendship goes.
She nods, keenly aware that their every words are being heard. I did not like to mention that you may be in a race with the Tremere to find a cure to this, but I very much look forward to the outcome of this contest. It can only be good for the city and for your own wisdom.
And he just gives her a soft and a brief smile and a flash of his gaze, and then he just kind of goes silent at that.
I very much admire the work both of you have done. And I hope that this slightly unusual alliance will provide resources that would not otherwise be available or convenient. My own methods of study tend to be far from the usual road, and occasionally that is useful.
Yes, I'm sure all this would prove fruitful, but the main thing here is that we need to get you back out into the field and getting your hands dirty. handling that problem there. And he kind of points with the cane ever so slightly as he walks, but doesn't
Is he
look at it.
pointing to her hands?
No, more like her shadow.
Okay. She glances back and glares at it. Though at the mention of getting her hands dirty, she discreetly tucks them into her
He
robes
said that
again.
he said that
Yeah.
on purpose.
Okay. And she's gonna roll. No problems here. It's fine.
Or is there?
Four successes. It's fine. Let's go get our hands dirty. That's fine. Quiet. Well, would you like a ride back? Oh, Jesus, she has to go back over the river. Just kidding. She doesn't offer him any rides. She's going back by herself.
Oh,
Just
Tamina
get
couldn't watch you sit in
back
the
over
box.
the river. Nobody gets to watch her sit in a box.
No, no, no. I appreciate the offer. I have my own carriage I can take back. But I do appreciate the offer. I mean, I do wish your ride back is safe and uneventful.
I'm certain it will be. She lies. Her teeth.
Well then, I'm assuming they probably get to their carriages by now, and he simply gives her a bow and a small smile as he wraps his face back up in a cowl and gets into his carriage.
She offers him a gesture of benediction, a blessing, and gets into her own carriage for the harrowing ride home. And once she's
Before the carriage door closes, though, he does yell out, "Be healthy."
go with God, she calls. Though she will say it in Arabic.
I don't know if he does. He know Arabic? I think he does. This is we all know
Yeah,
Arabic.
you do. You start with
Okay.
Arabic.
All right. Well, yeah. He just says so. Thank you. Though you probably can't hear it because it's muffled through the carriage. But yeah.
Yep. So, we can end our scene there. Thank you, players for playing. Thank you, watchers watching. And we'll see you all next time.